This is every mind-blowing creation the community's built in Minecraft. And hey, the YouTube security guard bets that you can't subscribe to the channel before this minecart reaches the top. So to prove them wrong, ride to that sub button down below. It's free and it helps out a ton. Starting with Minecraft. Yeah, no joke. Minecraft inside of Minecraft. As Sam Uri and their team put together, this is a full-scale computer that can play Minecraft inside of the game itself, complete with 8 kilobytes of program memory, 256 bytes of RAM, and a 96 by 64 resolution screen. It's probably not the most beefy version of Minecraft, so don't expect shaders anytime soon, or more than one color, but you can play with a full-scale PlayStation controller. And not to mention that within the game itself, there's actually an impressive amount of things that you can do, including storing items in chests, smelting items in a furnace, and even crafting. I mean, come on, the grass even spreads over time if you let it long enough. There's so much that's possible here, it's really impressive. And the fact that it was done with no command blocks, data packs, or mods, yeah, that's just absurd. Hats off to them. Redstone genius by the name Sloimay built full-scale Hangman in Minecraft using only redstone. In Sipover's redstone competition, they made it so there's not only a full display for you to play on, but also a death message that shows when you die. I mean, I have trouble picturing how much time it would take to lay out all the wiring for the buttons here on the button deck, let alone making it actually playable in the allotted time for the competition. Yeah, that's something special. And then they went one step further and added leaves for decoration on top of it. At that point, that's just flexing. And you know what? They fully deserve to. Also featured in that same redstone competition was this masterpiece. Built by Mythical Pingu, we have a full-scale redstone tank. And it's not just the tank part that's impressive with this, but also how much is built inside of that tank. Like, did you know that it is a fully functional aircraft carrier? Meaning not only does it move, but the aircrafts can move with it. And also, its TNT cannons aren't just something simple, because when you press the button to fire them off, it'll dupe a whole bunch of TNT and then launch it off like birdshot. And of course, it's hard to look at this thing and not appreciate what's on top of it. This here's the Mega Nuke, and I can give you one guess what it does, but even when you expect the name of it, watching it in action's something else. And at that point, I have to agree with the original title of the video. Calling this the most expensive tank seems more than fair. I mean, it's even got netherite blocks in it just to show off. I mean, you can not only blow up your friend's base and then some, but you can do it in style. Building vault doors with redstone's nothing new. And while we've definitely seen some really large piston doors, what about a door made out of really large pistons? Made by Crafty Masterman, this here isn't just a big vault, but it's a big vault made out of even bigger large-scale blocks. And those large-scale blocks are completely functional. Like, no joke, look at the pistons, the repeaters, even the redstone dust and torches. All of them work, and all of them are giant. And honestly, when you look small compared to the buttons on the build, you know that you got something serious. But that's not even the largest piston that we're gonna see in the video. Since in this example built by Lord John 25, we get an inside look into how ridiculous it is to build one of these things. Now obviously the piston, or sorry, Bigston, is itself something impressive to look at. And while it is fully functional, it's only when you fly inside of the machine that you can see how impressive this actually is. I mean, looking at all the redstone inside of this, it looks like you're flying into the Matrix. I can't understand this more than ones and zeros. And a lot of the redstone that we're seeing is to bypass the 12 block push limit of the piston, making this truly remarkable to watch, especially when you see it time-lapse like this. It's inevitable, folks. When you play in a multiplayer server or you happen to be next door to a creeper, your base is gonna get griefed at some point. I know, that sucks. So to defend against that harsh reality, let's be a bit more proactive and deck out your walls. You see, cobblestone generators aren't just useful for skyblock. We can also use them to reinforce your base. By having cobblestone generators and pistons that are underneath your build, then as a block gets broken, it's only a matter of time before the piston pushes one up and it gets replaced. So whether it's a nuisance's pickaxe or a creeper's explosion, this is at least some way to keep your walls intact. Using flying machines to dig a perimeter is nothing new, and tiny ones like this tunnel blower have become pretty popular. But what Psycraft's built here is something that makes those seem a little small by comparison. And really, to call this quarry giant would be an understatement, since to actually be able to see the whole thing, you need to fly past it in spectator mode. But what this does is exactly what you expect. It'll systematically delete your world line by line. And it doesn't matter if it comes up against water, gravel patches, lava, anything. This monstrosity will take care of them, and then some. So now the only question is, what do you do with this giant hole? Well, you could use it to make an extra fast mob farm, or if you want to make the fastest mob farm possible, then we gotta look at what Victor 40's cooked up. This mob farm, conveniently called the End of Light, is one of the fastest mob farms in Minecraft. And what Victor 40, VK Tech, and Ima MC have done here is make a farm that's not only completely survival friendly, but one that's also capable of getting us 3.1 million items per hour. Which sounds great, but What items are we getting? Oh really, you have your pick. Since this farm will give you gunpowder, bones, arrows, rotten flesh like a regular mob farm, and then it'll also give you ender pearls, sugar, sticks, glowstone, all the drops that you would get from endermen and witches too. And then with the right kind of portal linking to sync this up, we could also add in other modules for wither skeletons and drowned as well. So you better figure out a good way to store all those items, I guess. Because just this alone, we're filling up almost 900 double chests worth every hour. I don't even know if I could place down 900 double chests in an hour. I guess we got some other prep to do before we build this. Here we've got both a flying machine and death from above. Since the design here makes a fully operational bomber plane that'll seamlessly carry you over whatever destruction you lay out. And despite clearly being effective, I also think this looks quite cool. But as you can see from Jackson's video, building this on a server that can't handle the lag might just mean that your machine goes up in smoke instead of your friend's base. But hey, at least you got your wish. You definitely did bomb the plane, just not in the order you hoped to. Flying machines open up a lot of great opportunities for redstone, but I for one am more interested in this walking machine, since what we have here is Mumbo Jumbo's famous example of building a walking house in Minecraft. And while it's not exactly going to be a comfortable journey, you can't really store as much as you would in a regular house, it's hard to say it isn't impressive when you walk past spawn with one of these. And seeing how other players have taken this idea and ran with it in their own flying bases, I think that's pretty special, if not a little terrifying. This redstone door is so big that Mojang literally had to update the build height just to fit it in. But ever since 1.18's changes to the world height, Lord John proves that we've now been able to build a 384 by 384 block piston door. Just don't expect it to open anytime soon, since the way that this is made to work is with a bunch of flying machines, and those have never really been famous for being too fast. But watching it in a time lapse like this, it's hard to say it isn't impressive, especially the fact that you're able to open up this whole contraption just from one button. And the fact that you would need roughly 50,000 sticky piston and slime blocks to make this happen, that's both beyond me and beyond what my slime farm's capable of. So I'll just stick to 6 planks and a crafting grid for me, thanks. Getting yourself a set of fully enchanted armor is a huge accomplishment, though the phrase fully enchanted is a bit misleading. After all, some enchantments are mutually exclusive, so you're not able to get them all in one set. And that means that most of us late game like to have a couple of different sets to choose from. Perhaps one for nether travel, another for combat, and then a daily walking around set, for example. So instead of keeping all that hard work in the chest, because honestly it should be on display, how about piecing together an armor stand swapper? Then, when you want to wear the set, you can cycle through the stands and get the right gear for the right occasion. This might look confusing from the outside, but the redstone to make it work is actually even more confusing. Though when you put it all together, what we've actually got here is a fully functional spruce tree farm. That's going to produce you 461,000 logs per hour. Not planks, logs. Designed by the geniuses Floppy Donkey, Hampter, and Activation, which, can I just say, I love the names that you get from Minecraft. Like, the Manhattan Project would seem a lot less intimidating if someone named Floppy Donkey worked on it. Anyway, and with the help of some very precise different blast chambers, and pistons to go and crush all the leaves, it's amazing to see something that handles the biggest trees in Minecraft as if they were just regular saplings. Truly impressive stuff. Snake is a game that works on basically any machine, and apparently that includes ones that we can build in Minecraft. Since this YouTuber MattBatWing shows off, they were able to code an entire algorithm just to be able to play the game as we would on regular hardware. And things that would sound simple to explain take a whole bunch of redstone just to get to work. Like, just to be able to remove the tail right, you need this entire grid of redstone here. And while it looks a bit confusing to see all the redstone, when you actually watch it play out on the screen, it moves pretty fluid. And I just think that's incredible, so credit to them. With a few snow layers placed just right, we're able to trap a gas fireball and actually use it for our own functioning gassed cannon. Now, obviously setting one of these up is going to be pretty dangerous, but as soon as you get a gas trapped, then we just need to have it shoot its fireball into the middle of snow layers like this and a slab over top, and that'll keep the hitbox in place, and more importantly, it'll let us stand inside without taking damage. And from there, all we have to do is punch, and we have the full capability to launch these wherever we so please. Oh, and if you want to make this cannon even faster, just add in more ghasts. Though I'd be remiss if I didn't recommend having this minecart with an activator rail to get you on top, because after all, we're working with some pretty powerful explosives here. We don't want to take any risks in how you mount it. Changing the color of a beacon with redstone's nothing new, but changing it seamlessly enough to make a fully RGB gaming beacon, that's something special. And while this initial color shifting design was made by PT Far, the way the cubic meter was able to expand upon this made the beacons both thicker and a lot more seamless, which I've got to say is pretty mesmerizing. So if having your entire desk set up RGB wasn't enough for you, then you could always learn binary coding and get it in-game. Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it was gonna be easy. And that's not the only crazy design from Cubic Meter that we'll see in this video, since what we got here is not only a way to get us loads of obsidian, but also completely demolish the obsidian pillars in the end. See, by trapping not just one wither, not two, but 40 withers in the same pillar, we can get ourselves enough obsidian to make a giant overworld gold farm multiple times over per hour. And honestly, with all this obsidian, I'd love to start building with the stuff, but unfortunately, I can't break it quite as fast as a wither. Granted, I can't break any block fast enough to get to 240,000 an hour, so maybe I was gonna lose that one from the start. Nembon's one of the Minecraft geniuses. I mean, if Carpet Mod alone was any proof, they clearly know the ins and outs of how to make this game great. I mean, literally hired by Mojang to give you any idea. And this Guardian Mosh Pit farm is an incredible way of seeing just how much they can push the limits. Here we can see a version of the farm that gives us 1.8 million drops per hour. And while to build this, we have to completely get rid of the rest of the world around it. With the help of the World Eater quarries that we saw from earlier, that gets a lot more easy to do. And then with nether portals tucked in just right next to our spawning platform, we guarantee that every time that a Guardian's possibly able to spawn, it gets immediately transported to the nether and drops down this shaft to die on top of lava. You could even use looting to increase the amount of drops that you get from this farm. You know, if 1.8 million per hour wasn't enough, I won't judge. And honestly, with all that Prismarine, we could use it to build back the ocean monument we had to destroy for this. That way, it might still be gone, but not forgotten. Instead of storing your stuff in a chest, why not store them as physical blocks? Which sounds crazy, but what's even crazier is looking at this old machine that Ilmango built to store over 884,000 of the things. And to me, this looks like the way that Wally stores things, and then moves it down the elevator with fly machines to where it needs to go. And really, just looking at the time lapses of this thing is enough to be satisfying alone. Something about seeing a whole huge wall of blocks moving this way, let's face it, that's just cool. And while I'd personally feel lucky to find 8 diamond ore, let alone 884,000 of them, if I had that amount, I would want to build a system like this just to show them off. If anything, it'd just be cool to collect them all up and then use a fortune pickaxe. Normally in the game, we're farming either mobs or items, but this design by Rayworks on Prototech farms lightning. And you might wonder, what's the point of using something like this as opposed to this channeling trident generator that we've shown off in the past? But the real reason is that when you manipulate the RNG just like this, we're not actually farming lightning, but rather we're farming what we get from the lightning, which is skeleton horse traps. And so in old versions of the game, it's possible to make this entire design to completely turn the random number generation into something that we actually control, therefore guaranteeing that we're getting skeleton horse traps only in this area, giving us a skeleton horse farm and a lot of noise too. Killing one wither's a tough task, especially if you're in Bedrock Edition, but killing 72,000 of them in the next hour is gonna seem a bit more impressive. And the way we're able to do this is through this design laid out by Purplers. Here we've not only got a pipeline that's able to automatically make the withers, but then also automatically kill them in this bedrock chamber. And while they go into this in much better detail in their video, and with a much better accent might I add, I think when you see it all come together in this time lapse of the final product, it's easy to forget that we're even killing something. It just looks that beautiful. But if you wanted to build that RGB beacon design that we had from earlier, this would be a good way to fund it, at least in the Nether Star department. This incredible machine is able to entirely disable hitboxes, and it was built on the most crazy server imaginable. What you might call the EMP or the Immortality machine was built on the 2B2T server, which is the most famous anarchy server for getting basically killed in every way imaginable. And the way this works is that it lags out the game in such a way, including enough to crash the server multiple times, that eventually it lowers the ticks per second so low that we're no longer able to take damage from anything. It's literally impossible to register any action when the game's going this slow. But worth mentioning is that this wouldn't lag out most servers that you tried it on. And the reason it does in this case is because of the specific plugins that Housemaster uses. So as long as you don't do those, you should be fine. You'll also be fine if you don't invite these people to your server and call it anarchy, but I digress. Building a raid farm is one thing, and it actually gets pretty simple. But building the stacking raid farm that we have from Cow King, yeah, that's a different story. And the idea here is that we're going way out into the middle of the ocean, where there's no other possible area for a raid to spawn. So then, when we get the Bad Omen effect, we're able to control exactly where they're going to be falling down to. And then by keeping both our player and our villagers safe inside of a composter like this, we then set it up in such a way so that the raid center has been moved 96 blocks away from the player. And the reason that 96 blocks is important is that that means that we're able to get the Bad Omen effect again and again from previously spawned raiders. And then with the help of an armor stand like this so we can use the sweeping edge on enemies, we add in a couple of extra things like a Vex suppressor and some hopper sorters for all the items we're going to be getting, and it's done and ready to give you 200,000 emeralds per hour. And one thing to note is that while this design would work in versions later than 1.17, because of the changes to the raid mechanics in 1.18, there are more in-date designs. But if you're lucky enough to play on 1.16 to 1.17, if you build something like this, you're gonna be having more than a few emerald beacons, let's put it at that. Here's how to kill the Wither in one arrow. You're just gonna need to use a lot of redstone, since what Cubic Meter built here is a machine that's able to use TNT blast to speed up how quickly we shoot an arrow to the point where it's able to do enough damage to instantly kill anything. And what I particularly like about this design versus what we've shown off with the rail cannon in the past is that here it uses the explosion from the Wither in a blast chamber before deleting it with the railgun. And honestly, to do all of this for a redstone competition too, that's even more impressive for me. I can't imagine pulling together anything this impressive ever, let alone during the stress of a competition. Building an elevator in Minecraft's been a concept for about as long as redstone's been around. I mean, let's face it, who really wants to take the stairs? Since with this design by JL2579, we get to see one of the craziest multi-floor piston elevators I've ever seen in the game. And with the ability to call and send the cabin to any floor from any floor, plus being able to select which floor you want to go through with this selection system with the item frame, it's really pretty painless to get to where you want to go. And the way this all works is down to the cobblestone wall and bubble column instant wiring, which when you use observers, you can detect the update, and just like that, we'll be able to get all of our updates sent from any floor instantaneously. And even an explanation doesn't do this justice, so it's a good thing that they show this off in slow motion here in their video. I mean, I've never seen a flying machine ride that's this smooth, so watching one that's made well to this scale, it's just insane to me. Here we have a design that uses slime block flying machines to make a fully functional crane game, and it's all survival friendly. Since as J2KL lays out in this design, we're able to use this controller at the front to precisely maneuver wherever we want our slime block claw to be. And then when it's over the diamond ore, or the stone if that's what you want, I won't judge, then you can extend the claw, have it pick it up, and it'll move it back to where it needs to be. And honestly, just looking up at the ceiling and seeing all of the different pistons that it takes to move this block a couple of different ways, it's pretty satisfying to see. If not a little confusing, but really all the best redstone's like that. Now, we've talked a lot about how great it can be to reinvent and improve your Minecraft house with redstone. But what if we took it that one step further, got a bit more meta, and built the entire house out of redstone? Now, frankly, this can get a bit crazy, and the redstone is complicated to say the least. But being able to have your house both built and then retracted entirely through redstone systems, that's a sight to see. And sure, as you can see from this time lapse, it does take some time for the whole process to be done. But folks, Rome wasn't built in a day, so getting an entire house done and dusted in a few minutes seems like a good deal. Whenever you play Minecraft with friends, there's always that one person who has way too many dogs tamed. I mean, one or two is fine, but at this point it's starting to border on a problem. So in that case, I definitely wouldn't show them the kind of farms that we got cooking up here. Because thanks to the insane technical communities of Minecraft, we actually have a possible wild wolf farm in the game. And believe me folks, while this might sound simple, this is actually a huge undertaking to do. And really, unless you've tamed every single wolf in your entire zip code, there's not much of a reason to build one of these things. But when you see the kind of showcases that Sidecraft and Prototech show off, it really is impressive how many wolves you can get to spawn with one of these things. Only downside is it's going to be a lot tougher to pick out man's best friend when you got thousands of these coming through the machine. This is a flying machine, and this is a flying submarine. Since by using the same technology, user Dylan D was able to make this very realistic submarine that can cruise through the water with no issues. And while that alone is wild enough to experience, what really sells this to me is the little details. Like the fact that we're able to hop inside these minecarts for a quick little ride, or if we place TNT up on top of these blocks, they'll get pushed up with the soul sand bubble streams and explode any ships that are above us. Bombs away. Here's how you get a command block in survival, or a spawner, or an end portal frame, or really anything, by using a combination of some insanely complex techniques, such as population manipulation, save stating, falling block mechanics, instant tile tick, instant fall, async chunk loading on top of everything else. We can put those all together and get literally any block that we want inside of survival mode, which is definitely a lot to do, but just picture the amount of bragging rights that you get when you show off these in your next museum. Melon farms are nothing new to Minecraft, and there's plenty of different designs out there that exist to get you all the kind of melon slices that you need. But that's the thing, they get you melon slices. What if instead you wanted the full melon block instead of having to craft them? Well, if it's really that much of a big deal to you, then you can actually make a melon block farm using endermans. Sure enough, by taking a melon farm and an enderman farm and putting the two together, you can actually have the enderman pick up the block and then kill them to get the drop. I guess it might be more of a proper melon farm, but the problem is that as soon as you want melon slices, you just gotta break the melon blocks anyway. So at that point, building one of these over a traditional melon slice farm seems kinda silly. And that might be why we don't see a lot of these pop up in different servers. Take it from me, adding a hidden basement to your Minecraft house takes it up a definite notch. But you know what takes it that little step further? Developing a secret backdoor entrance to that said basement. Now, how you go about building the secret entrance is an open-ended question. There are a lot of different options to build here. But personally, my go-to is using this secret rabbit-based carrot detector, so that when you hold your carrot key nearby, Bugs Bunny over here will sniff it out and let you right in. It's straightforward, it's weird, and most importantly, it should keep your secret stash safe. Flying with an elytra in Minecraft is one of the most fun things that you can do in the game. But those wings don't always work well indoors, to say the least. But before you take off your elytra when you enter your base, here's a way that you still might be able to use it inside of your four walls. See, by throwing together a piston door system, laying it on its side, and then putting it in your roof, then you can have it open up and give you the perfect exit for your escape. Because trust me, if you give me the chance of launching out of my living room like a rocket or just strolling out of the back door, I'm definitely taking my wings and things and going right through the roof. Everyone hates making trips back to their chest to restock every time they run out of rockets. And I don't think an ender chest is the solution. It really just pushes off the problem to restock later. So that's why what DocM did here is really impressive to me. This here is a system that'll wirelessly restock his rockets whenever he gets low. And while that sounds like command block magic, it's actually redstone magic. And a bit of a glitch. See, with a lot of powered rails, we can do something called update suppression, completely stopping the game from updating. And then with a certain setup of hoppers, we can remotely link our inventory to a chest. And that process is called item shadowing, meaning with your hotbar set up in a certain way, you can infinitely use rockets without ever having to carry more than what's in your offhand. And now we just need a way to wirelessly recharge your mending elytra, then we'd really have something going. So we've seen that with update suppression, you can make some pretty crazy things. But probably the weirdest one has to be when you get bedrock to actually drop as an item. Yeah, no joke, even though it was coded out in 1.9 for bedrock to drop itself as an item, the geniuses over on Prototech and Sidecraft have found out ways in 1.12 to get bedrock to actually drop from end gateways. And honestly, you know when you've completely broken the rules of Minecraft? When your trophy chest looks like a 5-year-old showing off what they got in creative mode. And if I didn't actually see them get it with my own eyes, it'd be hard to believe it's true. That's how remarkable the feat is. I just hope they're careful where they place it after they get it. Let's say after spending a bunch of time in your basement doing who knows what, after you pop up into the surface, you need to check the time of day. But let's be honest, a clock is boring. And not only that, it takes up resources and valuable inventory space. Not exactly a great deal. So if you're as fed up with these gold pocket watches as I am, then what you gotta build is a fully functional ceiling indicator clock. All you have to do to set it up is just put daylight sensors on some of the redstone lamps and then fully power the others, so that at night it's a moon and then in the daytime it's sun. Not only does this give a helpful visual indicator for when you actually come out of your basement to see the time, but also it's definitely a nice thing to look at. By using RNG manipulation, we can guarantee that we get the most out of our fortune pickaxe every single time, which means that instead of averaging 2.2 diamonds per ore that we break, we're getting 4 diamonds every single time. And while the systems that make this happen are more complex than I can go into, I think this is the prime example if you gotta spend a lot to make a lot. And when you get the maximum amount of redstone every time that you break an ore, investing this much just seems like a drop in the bucket. Instead of trading with your villagers in the overworld, you should trade with them in the end. For the simple reason that if you get a villager set up like this, and then use the end teleporter gateways, we're able to easily keep trading with the same villager without it ever timing out. And the best part about this user design is that we don't actually have to break bedrock to do this. But rather, we just flip the trap door, activate the water source, and then trade with the villager as we're getting teleported between the 2 different spots. That alone makes it completely possible to keep trading with this villager as many times as we want, since it bugs it out and it'll never have to restock. So while it might take some time to set this all up, this definitely could be a design that saves you time in the future. Showing off your base to a friend can be a great bonding experience, until you find that one greedy one. Yeah, you know the one. The player that always has a nose that they want to stick in every single chest you have lying around. So, to keep your privacy and take out the trash, so to speak, why not build a bit of a Trojan horse trap to do the trick? I mean, since they're already opening every chest anyway, it's not your fault if they just happen to find that one trapped chest that'll take them right down to their doom. I trapped 70 wardens in this one area, and the reason is that with all these wardens, no other hostile mobs are going to spawn around us. See, the hostile spawning in Minecraft works off something called a mob cap, which is that after a certain amount of hostile mobs are spawned, the game isn't going to spawn anymore, which means that if we get ourselves enough wardens and then use a note block so that they don't despawn, then we're technically still safe, but nowhere else in the server are more hostile mobs going to spawn. And after you build this, I'd recommend placing a chunk loader and getting immediately out of there, because having 70 wardens in one spot is going to mean 70 mobs that are trying to give give you the darkness effect, which if you ask me is 70 too many. Everyone loves receiving gifts, so if you're looking to recreate that feeling of Christmas morning 1,000 times over, then you can actually do that by building a fully functional cat gift farm. The way this works is that every time that the player sleeps, the cats will bring gifts to them, whether that's a rabbit's foot, a rabbit hide, string, rotten flesh, feather, raw chicken, phantom membrane, all of these different items. And while I'm not sure how useful most of these are, I'm also not one to deny a present. So if you're looking to just sleep around all day and leave the foraging to your feline friend, this is definitely the way to make it happen. One key thing to know about this farm though is that you do have to own the cat for it to work. But if you make sure that they're your own pet and you leave them standing instead of sitting while you sleep, then sure enough, they are going to give you all the gifts that you need. If what you need is a bunch of junk. In Minecraft, getting a bunch of valuables is the definite aim of the game. So if that's the case, you gotta give your diamonds and netherite a bit something more special than just having them in a chest. So to do that, to really crank up the splendor of your vault, what you really need to do is combine the powers of slime and honey blocks to make a huge vault door for your base. As Mumbo Jumbo will surely tell you, as soon as 1.15 rolled around, we were able to do some crazy contraptions by mixing together the honey and the sticky. And now it's time to put all of those to work inside of your world. Mob farms are nothing new, but a passive mob farm, that's something special. But if we use something like world eaters to get rid of all the other spawnable area in a place, then once we add in well-lit grass blocks into the middle of spawn, we guarantee that all peaceful mobs that are supposed to be spawning only spawn where we want them to be. And then we use a flying machine to push them over to the killing method and get ready for the next batch. And if you're wondering why we built it so low in the world, again, that's to increase the amount of spawn rates that we're gonna get, which is a hassle to build, but it's also just about the only reliable way that we're getting a constant automatic source of cows, pigs, sheep, and horses. So I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. The 1.14 update added a bunch of different tables to keep track of, which on the one hand is great. I mean, there's plenty of stuff you can do with them, but on the other, finding room for your crafting table and furnace setup was hard enough. And now you're telling me you have to worry about a stone cutter and a smithing table? It's just too much. So to keep up their utility without ruining your floor plan, a crafting table block switcher is definitely the way to go. Fortunately, because they're not tile entities, all of these can be moved around with pistons. So when you're ready to use the next set, all you gotta do is trigger this input and the blocks will get cycled around for the next rotation. Watch closely, because if you blink, you might miss this one. Since by using a Ravager setup like this, we're able to launch ourselves over 1,000 blocks just like that. After building this user design, the steps are pretty simple. We move into the pressure plate while holding the block key, making sure that the fence gate locks us in place, and then after we block enough time so that the Ravager gets stunned, which you can tell by its head shaking around, then we quickly click this minecart, keep blocking, and then wait for it to hit us again, until just like that, we're shot hundreds of blocks away from where we started. Just make sure you have a safe place to land when you get to the other end. After all, you wouldn't want to die 1,000 blocks away from where you're supposed to be. I'm sure you all know that smart homes are all the rage these days. So if you're looking to boost your Minecraft house's IQ points, why not try to add in a few of these automatic lights? And you might be wondering, how do these work? Well, the secret lies with this little guy underneath the floorboards, a pufferfish player detector. And because of the way this mob's hitbox works, as soon as you walk up and arrive, then it'll actually turn on the lights for your arrival. And you know what's even better? It could be tileable, meaning you could stack a whole bunch of these around the entire house so that whenever you return, the whole thing is going to light up like a Christmas tree. If you want to have an overabundance of leads, then it is totally possible to make it out of infinite string and slimeball farms. But when you do that, you run into the pesky problem of crafting. So if you're not looking to lay out all those ingredients in a crafting grid, then this can save you a step. The concept of this is fairly simple. We build a large spawning platform for wanting villagers to come into play, then we put a bell in the middle that they make their way towards. And as soon as they're there, you kill them off and their llamas, and then you're able to get free leads for you. Granted, this process does make you into somewhat of a genocidal maniac, but if you really want to save the time on crafting, then it's the price you gotta pay. And as long as the authorities don't know, then we'll just keep it our little secret. Why did we make our bee farm in the nether? Well, strange as it might be, by having these little helpers buzzing around in the nether, there's no day-night cycle, so they just work constantly. And then if we add in a chunk loader like this one, where ever so often it sends an item through the portal so that the chunks don't unload, then we make sure that those bees legitimately work non-stop all the time, regardless of where we are in our world. And that'll be the best way to get all the honey blocks necessary for when you're building this kind of crazy redstone vault door. Now, let's be honest, infinite water pools are a necessity, but they can end up being an eyesore. So if that's the case, let's get a bit more creative for your kitchen. To make this work, all we have to have set up is that a dispenser will pour fresh buckets of water into your sink. And then as soon as you take one out, an observer will detect it and refill. And honestly, a waterlogged stair looks so much nicer in your bathroom or wherever you put it than some kind of big water basin. Slime farms are nothing new, but making a slime farm that doesn't rely on slime chunks, but instead the swamp's own spawning mechanics, that's a whole other achievement. And as you see from this design, this is now possible only because of the 1.18 spawning changes that prevent certain mobs from spawning if there's a light level above 0. But because mushrooms emit a light level of 1, we can use that to spawn-proof an entire area so that only slimes spawn. And then as soon as we go up to this platform way up in the sky, you'll see that sure enough, the slimes are spawning down there. You just might need to increase your render distance to actually be able to see it. If you're looking to trick out your house with redstone and you're not even considering adding in secret storage, you're wasting your time. Folks, let's be honest, if you're gonna go through all the effort of putting pistons in your house anyway, then a couple of secret doors is definitely the way to go about it. Because really, why should your party guests be coming down into your basement anyway? That's your business. So if you want to keep them away from touching your valuables, then all you gotta do is hide hidden levers amongst your base, and then when you flick those, it'll open up a secret door passageway, normally through a bookshelf, and you'll be able to go down and check it out. Look, I love trading with villagers, but when I'm done with my business, I don't exactly want to hang around with them. No offense, but they're not much for conversation. So if you're like me and you just want to reap the rewards without having to deal with too many Squidwards in your base, then a villager pop-up system using slime blocks is definitely the way to go. As you can see here, when you're ready to trade away your glass panes, all you gotta do is flip this and the villager will pop out from the floor ready to do the business. And while this might not seem entirely humane, look, I won't tell the iron golems about it if you don't either. We'll keep it our little secret. One of my favorite bits of redstone ingenuity is when you use it to kill other people. And this machine could do more than that. It could also one-shot the Ender Dragon. Affectionately called the Rail Cannon, there's been multiple different designs to build something called the Never Forget, which is a fancy way of saying a machine that'll speed up an arrow shot so fast that it'll be capable of dealing 1200 hit points of damage on the dragon on impact. Literally, as soon as the dragon spawns in, it's already gone. And honestly, when your machine starts to work as fast as typing in the /kill command, I think you got something impressive on your hands. And while the Rail Cannon is a great way of killing the Ender Dragon in an instant, it does require quite a bit of user input. So that's where Fast Jazz's design of a super fast AFK Ender Dragon farm comes in. Now, why you'd want to farm the Ender Dragon so much, I'm not entirely sure. Unless you're using something like the Vanilla Tweaks data pack where it drops on Elytra every time, this seems like a lot of work. But take it from someone who's had to kill the Ender Dragon 19 times plus for a video, and the opportunity to have all that hard work done for me does seem pretty appealing. And the way we do this is that we use TNT duplication to specifically drop the TNT and take out all the different end crystals that we need to. And once the Ender Dragon has no way left to regenerate, it'll keep flying above us trying to damage the player. Meanwhile, our TNT drops from above and takes it out. Truly beautiful. Obviously, enchanting your gear in Minecraft is an absolute necessity. But while there are definitely benefits to the enchantment room, one of them is not going to be the look. So to fix that, how about making an enchantment room that actually reveals itself through the floor? Before we trigger this redstone input, you can clearly see that the top texture of the bookshelves matches pretty well with the oak wooden planks. And then when you're ready to get efficiency 5 on your pickaxe, all you gotta do is flip this and boom, your enchantment room is ready for you to use. And then after you're done with all your work, all you gotta do is flip this switch again and poof, it's gone in an instant. This farm can produce over 1 million items per hour, which is a ridiculous number to wrap your head around. But through the help of glitched portals and update suppression, it's possible to get enough hoglins spawning through to the overworld that we get over 1,500 double chests worth of cooked pork every single hour. And I'm hungry, but that should be enough to even feed me. And if we go over to the nether side, you'll see that we have a row of glitched portals like this that make sure that every time that a hoglin spawns, it comes over to our overworld and gets cooked for our dining pleasure. But trust me, that makes it sound a lot simpler than it is to set up. I feel like potions are an often underused part of Minecraft. I mean, when you look at how some of these effects work, they can definitely pay off, but most of us don't want to go through the trouble of brewing. So if instead you want to benefit from all those different potion effects, yet still not waste your time on the potion system, maybe try this. By building one of these potion systems where you can select the different ingredients whether through a lectern or an item frame, then it saves you a trip of having to go through all your chests to find the perfect spider eye to make your poison potion. And then, after you've got it built, all you gotta worry about is just taking those potions out of the brewing stand when they're ready. Here's why you should be using armor stands in your item sorter. Because with this design by Ilmango, we use dispensers and armor stands to figure out very specifically which items are stackable and which ones aren't. So while a normal item sorter wouldn't be able to tell the difference between armor versus a sword, this one can. And if you're playing in 1.19, this design got pushed even further through the addition of allays, which does a lot to keep our chest from just ending up in a miscellaneous, not sorted pile. And for that, I'm thankful. When you're playing Minecraft for long enough, you're sure to accumulate a lot of junk, which is par for the course, but at some point you gotta get rid of it. And while stashing it in a forgotten chest or throwing it into fire is a nice way to go about it, no folks, what you need instead is a bouncy trash can using slime blocks. The way it works is simple. You place your items on the floor, you hit this button, and boom, they will bounce right up into the sky and get burnt to a crisp. Is it satisfying? Oh, absolutely. But just make sure you don't get too close to the trash chute. Instead of a minecart track like this, try this instead. With the way that minecart's rails work, we can manipulate the physics in such a way so that when we get pushed by a piston, we actually end up going extremely fast on this line of rails. Sure, the end result does cost a lot of redstone, but when you see the kind of speeds that we're able to output here, I think that quickly makes it worth it. And plus, there's even different piston bolt designs that'll let us go upwards, diagonally, or even move mobs around as well. And that would be the reason why many technical Minecraft players use this as their go-to way to travel thousands of blocks in between their builds, especially when it works in the nether. This is a nether portal, and this is a Pether Nordle. What's even weirder is that this is all possible in survival, and we get things like a half a wooden door, a half a bed, or some stuff that's even weirder. And while there are so many cool results that you can get out of this, I'd only recommend trying it using Carpet Mod's Update Suppression Crash Fix, because otherwise you might just lose your world to a loop where it constantly crashes over and over. And something tells me that no matter how cool these things are, that just isn't worth it. With the advent of the 1.16 update, all of a sudden, now we had a new fire color to play around with. Sure, while you could just put a flint and steel on any kind of block and get a red flame, if you happen to do it on a soul sand or soul soil, now you're getting blue fire instead. It's a pretty cool feature, and it definitely can help out depending on what color palette you got going on for your base. Or say that maybe you want to switch between the two. Well, no worries. Putting together a switch system like this, we can have pistons move it at the flick of a lever to change it from regular fire right over to the soul variant. So whether you're looking to feel at home in the nether or home for the holidays, you can change your fireplace up just like this, and it's really not that much of a hassle. I'm sure plenty of you already know that a super smelter is a great staple to have in your house, but most of the time, they're not exactly a looker. So if you want to keep a bit of that mystery and not know how the sausage gets made, you can actually build this, which is a hidden furnace array system. All that we have to see is the 3 chests on top. All it takes is a system of hoppers and droppers, and you can get all of the cooking done right out of sight. And then when your ores or food is done smelting, it'll be delivered to you right fresh in that chest up top. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?